up, everybody? It's Chad. I'm back again with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'm here today with my friend Josh Walker of Sacred Soul Farms. And you guys are up north, right?
Actually, we're down south. We're just about an hour south of Socorro, or an hour south of Albuquerque.
Yeah, the little threshold of south.
Yeah, totally. The kind of agricultural belt where there's a lot of other farms besides cannabis farms.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of cool. You guys have a lot of stuff that's already set up and ready to go and all that.
Yeah, totally. Sure. Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Heck yeah, man. So for my guests and everything, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, totally. I'm Josh. I was born and raised in Roswell, New Mexico. So I'm pretty familiar with how New Mexico operates inside of cannabis and outside of cannabis. I love being from New Mexico. When I was a kid, I didn't really appreciate it as much. But spending time in other states like Colorado, California, Vermont, it just kind of gave me this overall picture that like New Mexico is not too bad, especially if you've got your community. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me in terms of my history here. So
cool. So you're Eastern New Mexico kid too. I'm from Otero County originally, so
totally. Yeah.
Eastern kids, do you get a lot of the weird questions like, oh, do you see aliens all the time?
It's so funny. I love that now because I can really conversate on that. But as a kid, I used to not like that because I'm like, man, everyone knows this is like this weird alien place. But we used to, as teenagers, we'd always play with like people who had out-of-state license plates. We'd like point at the sky and different things like that to kind of get them to look for UFOs. Just kind of playing around, but yeah. So
that's fun.
Yeah, we made it fun. So yeah, I still do get those questions, but it's a little bit different conversation these days.
Yeah, I get the nuclear questions when I was in the military. They would ask me certain questions, like my second toe's longer than my first. And a certain doctor would be like, holy shit, where are you from? And I was like, New Mexico. And he was like, Alamogordo. He was like, oh, you're nuclear. I was like, turn the lights on, your ass will blow. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we all get it somewhere, I guess, right?
Totally. New Mexico is very diverse like that. A lot of interesting history here for sure.
Yeah. We have the Buffalo Soldier history that some people kind of overlook sometimes. We have the nuclear history, even the early, rocket days of, trying to go to space was, done here. It's the whole Goddard thing and all that. So
yeah, totally.
It's really cool. And even Alamogordo has a Space Hall Museum. If you guys ever have a chance to go. It's actually fun. It's like 5 stories. It's on the side of the mountain. You get to overlook Alamogordo. Like every story has like a different kind of thing for space. And, it's really cool.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, that sounds pretty sweet. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. And actually, Ham, the first monkey in space, is actually buried there. So you leave him.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
As well, the smallest IMAX. So there's that on top of it. But I digress. We'll stop talking about my hometown, where we're from. We'll get back on the track and everything. But how long have you been in the cannabis industry yourself?
Yeah, totally. So here in New Mexico for 2 years. It took me, I applied in 2021. But with the property that I bought and the pre-1907 water rights, it just took a while with the state engineer to get everything transferred to our name. And so that we could use the water rights commercially for the cannabis farm. Yeah. And so not that we use irrigation water for the plants, but just for the commercial use of it. We actually have a well that we use that's 80 feet deep, and it's a little bit alkaline, but the plants actually love it. It gives it a little bit of like natural salt. So yeah, it works out pretty good. But in terms of like the industry as a whole, I spent some time in California on a second generation cannabis farm out there. Heart Rock Mountain Farm is the name. And that's where I learned to do a lot of my genetic skills, where I learned to collect pollen, pollinate females, collect seeds, and kind of just continue generations of certain strains and or cross, pollinating different strains to create whatever the market's demanding. So yeah, for sure. I've been in it for a little bit. Commercially, I'd say like 4 or 5 years, but growing cannabis, probably 8 to 9 years total.
Okay, so you little seasoned yourself as well.
Yeah, totally. Just started out as like a home grower because I got tired of like buying it from other people I didn't know, and yeah, just kind of a long story. It started in Vermont when we owned a restaurant. It was a farm to table, and we worked with about 70 different farms within a 100-mile radius of the building. and the building was super historical. Lafayette stayed there back in like the 1800s. So the building itself had a lot of history, but I got into the point where I was making connections with the farmers and talking to them about like their seasonal struggles, kind of like what their, how they approached growing, because everyone was doing either produce, dairy, animal husbandry. So there was kind of like a variety of things to learn. And that piqued my interest into growing my own cannabis. And so I just started doing like closet grows from seeds that I would either find and, stuff that I would buy or whatever. But yeah, I just kind of started out like that. And then my passion just really shot after the restaurant closed, and really just kind of pursued the cannabis after that for sure. And yeah, here we are like 4 years later.
What took you to Vermont out of all places?
Yeah, totally. So my wife was born in New York City, and her mom, she was born in Vermont but grew up in New York, but her mom bought a retirement home back in Vermont. And at the time we were living in Vail, Colorado, just being ski bums, snowboarding all the time. And so we just decided to go up there and kind of change the pace, change the scenery. And when we got there, we had both had experience in restaurants. So we thought, man, we might as well, we have the investors, we can start our own thing. And we did that, and we really set the bar super high. If I could redo it, I would kind of start slower and work our way up. But we had a super successful restaurant. The food was incredible, everything. But, the COVID thing happened. We had to shut our doors. So just kind of life put us in a different direction. And to be honest, I think I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. People ask me all the time, are you going to start another restaurant? Nah, maybe a food truck down the line if you can incorporate cannabis with it. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. Probably just stick with weed, man.
I mean, that's great. You found your niche, and you're just gonna stick with it. Being
totally.
good at something doesn't mean it's your niche.
Yeah,
totally. I'm breathing, but it doesn't mean it's my niche.
Yeah, you're not inventing oxygen for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah,
when you find your niche, just go with it. I love growing
sure.
myself, but I found my niche doing stuff like this and marketing and stuff like that too. So
totally.
I found my niche in different areas as well. So not just growing, because I've been growing for about 11 years now. Yeah, about 12 years now. So yeah, growing at home and everything. I grew here, in the industry briefly and all that, and then just decided to step away, and then I've been doing this ever since.
Totally.
So
yeah, and it's much appreciated too, because we need that just as much as we need the cultivators and the retailers, and so it's really good to have people who are in their authenticity, just following that path, even through like the hard challenges where you're like, should I really be doing this shit? But at the end of the day, usually when you get through that pressure point, there's something that's like, okay, it's a reminder. This is why I'm doing this, So I think just kind of following your heart in that sense never leads you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, 100%, man. This is where we are
sure.
today, right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
So how many people are a part of your company? Is it just
so it's just me. My wife had our firstborn son in November of last year, so she's been busy raising him.
Congrats.
So she was my right-hand lady at the time, helping me with everything from transplant, seed starts, maintenance, all that stuff. So we're just a super small family farm, and I just try and really operate based off of quality and just uniqueness with how I'm breeding my cannabis.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And that's interesting. So you do everything on the farm. You do the growing, nutrient mixing, watering, cure, trim, all the whole 9 yards, huh?
Yeah, everything with the growing aspect, plus the marketing, plus the BioTrack, plus doing a pop-up events, which I've only done 2 because I don't have time to go anywhere. But yeah, being Socorro too, you're kind of secluded in the events, but Albuquerque's close enough and they've got enough going on that I can kind of be choosy. Yeah. In that sense. I want to start making my way down to Las Cruces more because, you guys are also neighbors to us. And I'm not so worried about like the border thing because I feel like if I go down, I would not have product coming back, would be my issue. But I know a lot of people are experiencing that, and I don't want the south end of the state to be hindered due to the fact that like people are scared to bring product down there at the end of the day.
And that's one thing we're trying to battle too down here. It's an issue. And I understand Albuquerque doesn't have the same issue, but at the same time, we need your support. And you understand, both ways, because you're literally like halfway between both areas. So you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the middleman. Yeah.
So it's unfortunate we're dealing with that. We're trying to go through different routes, legal routes that we have, filing JICs, asking for other filings and stuff like that, internally once you get pulled over or taken in or whatever, you ask for the agents, the case agent star number, et cetera, stuff like that. That seems to be fairly effective too. I think some people are going to try to sue, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Really, we just need legislative changes or a memorandum of understanding or something sort of like that.
Totally.
But it sucks we have to deal with it, but it is what it is, and hopefully one day it changes.
It's one of the things that's unique about New Mexico and the cannabis industry. Being in California, I was in the industry. Colorado, not so much, but I was around it, talking to growers and stuff. And New Mexico is just different in that aspect that we deal with a border, that's not part of the United States.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see it. It'll hopefully, I don't know, besides like the Canada border, I don't really know how serious the federal government will take it, but that's something that I look to you guys to inform us, because I'm just trying to focus on growing the medicine to provide to people and not trying to deal with the popo anymore. That's why I did the legal thing, So
100%, aren't we all, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So Michigan is actually throwing flag concerns right now with what's going on here in New Mexico, because as you know, part of Michigan, actually pretty much the Border Patrol controls a lot of the state, like here in New Mexico. I don't know if they deal with the same border checks that we do. I haven't looked that up, but I do know that I've read some articles where they are throwing concerns, like if New Mexico's going through this, are we going to be next? Because they have a heavy Border Patrol presence too, especially
totally.
Michigan there. There's so much that can come from the waters, and I'm sure it does.
Interesting. Yeah, for sure. I hadn't even thought of that. Interesting, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And I was wondering that. I was like, what if any of the northern states? And then one day I just saw that. I was like, oh, Michigan.
Yeah, totally.
It sells in the nation now. They beat California.
Yeah, and like even Illinois for 24 just surpassed $1 billion. So like those northern, like kind of Midwestern states are doing pretty good, for the most part. But I think it's like us in Texas. Is you've got like those other states that don't have legal, and you've got a bunch of smokers or even just people who need it for their medicine. It works better than pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, the pharmaceuticals, you have to run to the hemp-derived side. A lot of people are relying on the HHC, the Delta-8, the THCA, because those states that are illegal, they're actually allowing those kind of drinks inside of bars, restaurants, baseball games. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, really, because they're embracing it in a different way. I'm like, so you guys don't want legal weed, but you have legal weed.
You want the taxes part of it, yeah.
Okay, all right.
For sure, for sure.
But yeah, we got off topic again. Let's I'll bring us back. So I wanted to know also, where did the idea for the name Sacred Soul Farm come from? I mean, I can only guess, but I'd rather ask.
Yeah, most definitely. So, soul being Spanish for the sun, and being a sun-grown farm. I do automated light dep, so I kind of get best of both worlds, but it's like 90% sun grown. The lights are just for extended light, so things don't go into flower. I think here in Socorro, I peak at like maybe 15 hours of daylight. So, and I like to get my plants a little bigger. So it's just in that sense. But yeah, Sacred Soul, it was just something that like the cultivation of cannabis, the medicine itself, to me is like a sacred act, and it's kind of like a sacred union, right? Like when you're really cultivating that plant and having that symbiotic relationship where like you're learning from it, and it's reverberating your energetic field, so it's receiving whatever energy you do when you put hands on the plant or the soil. And that's kind of what my business model was to really just show the appreciation for the medicine and for the plant. And I was like, all right, well, Sacred, that's a pretty good name, for like what my intention is here. And then just the sun aspect. So I was like, oh, Sacred Soul. I was like, that's perfect. I mean, it sounds easy, but it took me like 3 months to come up with a name. I was writing down hundreds of different things, trying to just see what fit. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted to make sure that like the name of the farm really fit the profile of what my intention is of why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that's just to provide medicine for people, and like not just on a THC level, but all of the cannabinoids that go together that really help people on a medicinal aspect. And I'm sure I'll get to a point where I'm specifically breeding only for terpene profiles for people. You know, like people might have PTSD from the military, right? Like I think a lot of them might smoke, but it might bring up anxiety that might have the opposite effect. Like what are the more kind of like toning down terpenes, the ones that are really just like sedative and calming to the mind and the nervous system? And just kind of doing that, but also playing along with what the industry needs, man, because that shit's always changing and fluctuating. So I'm kind of like on this Libra scale of a balance of what my morals are for growing, but also like the business side, which is just, you know, I have to, it's a competitive industry. There's a lot of variety out there. And what am I bringing to the table that makes me unique? That people are going to be like, why do I want to smoke Sacred Soul Farms product? Or why do I want to collaborate with Sacred Soul in that sense? And so, yeah, that's just kind of the basis of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that response. You know, that
yeah, for sure.
Way more than I asked for, and I appreciate that because
for sure.
A really simple one. I'm like, okay, well, next question.
Yeah.
You know, I really appreciate that because it really goes into depth. Really what you guys are about. Especially the terpenes thing. I really focus and appreciate when people really know about terpenes, really know it's not about THC, just CBD. There's so many compounds in the plant. We're discovering more all the time. This Delta HHC thing is fairly new. Like we weren't really focusing on that whatsoever years ago. 5 years ago, we were like, oh, that is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think too, like with the federal thing, I think that it'll be more looked at because you can study it more with research. And I think, more researchers, scientists, stuff like that will have access to it just because it's a federally illegal thing at that point, which that's where I can see the positive aspect of that being a thing. But yeah, that's just that's how I like to grow, man, for sure. Terpenes all day, terps.
Oh man, I love the terps. For me, it doesn't make sense. Like why would I want to smoke something or consume something that tastes like something I don't like?
Yeah,
if it's
for
grows
sure.
that way. It's not like spraying it with something. If you do it right, it grows that way. If you have the great genetics, you're gonna have the plants with the great terps.
Totally.
So yeah, and Israel is really leading the world really when it comes to research with the terpenes. So they're finding out that they can pinpoint a plant's lineage more accurately using terpenes than anything else in the plant. So that's actually really interesting because they can say, well, is this really Blue Dream? And they can look at other ones like, nope.
That's amazing too, because being a breeder, you look for those kind of nostalgic flavors that bring you back to maybe that first time you smoked chronic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really cool that they're getting into that. And hopefully we'll see more of that within the industry.
Yeah, hopefully. Just now the industry is really just starting to kind of pick up the terps.
For sure.
Here in New Mexico, especially, which I'm happy for. People are really starting to see terpenes, where's that? And I see bud tenders pushing terpenes. And thank you so much, bud tenders. You guys are the backbone of our industry. Keep it up.
For sure. Yeah, you guys connected all the pieces. Yeah, dude, for sure.
Yes. You guys are nothing but short of amazing. Thank you so much.
No doubt.
But I wanted to talk to you also. I was checking out your stuff online. I didn't really hear much about you. We would talk every now and then on the IG account.
Yeah, totally.
Stuff. But I saw that you guys do living soil. So on top of really focusing on the terpenes, you do living soil. So for my listeners out there who don't know, and I don't think I've ever explained this to anybody or had someone explain it. Could you explain what living soil is and what are the benefits to it?
Yeah, totally. So living soil is all based off of diversity. So in your living soil, you want to have diversity of fungus. In that sense, you want to have diversity of microbes, nematodes, arthropods, which are single-celled organisms, so super microscopic. A lot of this stuff is shit you can't see with your eye. It's, you got to get it under a microscope. Yeah. But also earthworms, too, to break down all the organic matter. Because when it comes to living soil, one thing about it, it's the difference between that and a super like what they call like a super soil. A super soil is a pre-fertilized soil. And with living soil, it's kind of a consistent maintenance with amendments, beneficial insects, beneficial bacterias, and then again, like the mycelium, which is the fungus, because that creates the networks that make the nutrients more bioavailable for the plant to receive the nutrients. And so when you have a network that's symbiotic working like that, the result with terpenes amplifies, your plant health amplifies. So you have like immune system on plants that are a little bit stronger, that can maybe take a little bit more pest damage if something's missed, or, you just have an infestation. Because New Mexico's bugs are crazy, man. Like they just change constantly. So, and with living soil and having a healthy garden, you want to see a diversity of insects, not just the healthy ones, because what are they supposed to eat without having the others? Yeah. And so, like it really becomes a science and a breakdown. And really how I just trying to simplify it is just trying to take it step by step, really sourcing what you need for the living soil. I think there's lots of different options, but one thing I've been talking lately about is the terroir, right? So like in different regions, how you're talking about lineage based off of terpenes, like the terroir where that lineage is based out of can have a whole slew of effects. So like New Mexico has kind of like that sandy loam. We're in the old river basin here by the Rio Grande. I'm like a quarter mile from the Rio Grande. So you get down, there's a lot of clay. There's a little bit of sandy loam going on. So you've kind of got like those Afghan Cushes and kind of those lineages that do really well because they're used to that super arid environment. We're a little bit more in the mountains here. I think Socorro's at 4,500 feet. So it's pretty similar to like that area in terms of environment. Terroir is just based off of the history of what that location has gone through environmentally. And so like with New Mexico, with living soil, right, like you start to build a certain terroir based off of what you're feeding it. And that will eventually have an effect on your plants over time to where, you're like having to amend, but like synthetic liquids, salts, all that stuff, you don't have to add that, and your plant just performs. And you get outdoor stuff or like greenhouse that looks like indoor over time if you're doing it right. And not only that, like the medicine benefit, all the cannabinoids, those also exceed because they have the microbes and the nutrients to feed from. So my living soil is such a beautiful thing, and it can be very headache inducing as well, because you're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Like, what am I missing? Like, especially when your plants start having, like right now I'm having a slight magnesium deficiency, and it just looks like little drops of rust on the leaves. But if you know cannabis, you've grown forever, those symptoms can range from like 1 to 10 different things, and it could be one slight fix. Yeah. So like, yeah.
Like, this thing was just clogged, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. But if you get that living soil and you stay on top of it, maintain it, man, it just becomes its own environment, own ecosystem. And some of the best cannabis you could probably smoke, even food too. Like it's not just cannabis related. You could move that into agricultural field in general, where like, Hatch, for example, they're growing the green chilies. I don't know if they till as much as they do here, but every year they're turning that soil and like basically making it to where there's nothing out there except for what they plant, which is understandable, right? Because there's a lot of weeds and things. There's a lot of wind that transfers seeds, all that kind of stuff. But like not messing with the microbes and pulling all the air and moisture out of the soil can have a huge benefit on the whole agriculture effect. So I think as time goes on, I hope to see more of that in the industry of cannabis, but also in the food industry. So like with cannabis, you can do it indoor and outdoor. It doesn't have to be outdoor to be living soil. You can have like Carver Family Farm, they do indoor living and they produce, really good cannabis. So, and it's all about how you do it. Each person's going to be different in their result.
Yeah,
So
exactly. You know, at the end of the day, it's really what works for you, especially in your environment, like you said. You know, you're trying to create that symbiotic relationship with all these different, you know, you got the fungi and the mycelium. You have all these little animals in there, you know, running around.
yeah, totally.
Running around, you know, and it's you're really just trying to mimic the most organic growing environment that you can. Just something just closest to nature as possible. I mean, you're growing outside, so you're already pretty much there. But you know, you're just trying
Yeah.
to add more to it and just get the most of it as possible. You know, give that plant exactly what it needs. So
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's like, that goes into like the regenerative principle.
I was going to ask you about that. Please, let's talk on that.
Yeah, totally. So that kind of like gets you into that, right? To where with the regenerative principles, you're working with nature rather than against it. So with the regenerative, I kind of add another layer. My wife, she follows a biodynamic calendar, which is based more off of like astrological energy and changes that affect plants, kind of like the moon and the ocean and the tides. It's kind of the same thing with plants. Like normally you want to plant seeds underneath a new moon because it's dark. And then by the time they're putting out, it's the full moon. So they still have that growth when they pop through the soil. Even at night, they're kind of like getting, because they want to grow as much as they can, right? Especially if you have seeds that have been bred in that environment, they're going to automatically know based off of evolution what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, the regenerative, yeah, totally. And so, yeah, and like the regenerative aspect is, it can be, there's like principles that you can follow. But I think that just simplifying it, trying to just use whatever organic material or whatever that you can find on the property. If you do store-bought stuff, just doing your research on the material that you're buying, talking to the people. Like AHL, for example, like they crush it, dude. Every time I go in there, I've developed a really good relationship with those cats, and they always have solutions to what I'm going with. And it's not just one, like they have multiple things. So, you know, having people like that you can ask questions to, revolving, you know, your knowledge around things like that. But regenerative is more or less just, it's a conservation and restoration act for the environment that you're in. And most of the time you're doing it because that environment is lacking certain aspects like NPKs, minerals, stuff like that. So yeah, I can make a huge change over time, but it does take, you know, a couple years to really get the ball rolling. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking into.
Yeah.
The regenerative aspect.
Your farm did that too, so I really wanted to, you know, touch base on it for the, you know, people who are watching who aren't so plant savvy. You know, because
Totally.
I get lost in the sauce when we're talking about, you know, I talk about plants and stuff, and I'm like, wait, you can explain this. I'm sorry.
No, totally, for sure. And that's a huge thing, is the education, right? I feel like potentially more farms should be making an effort to get on an educational platform just to talk about it, about what they're doing. But I understand some people don't like to share that information, and that's fine. But it's Sacred Soul, man, you can text me or call me or message me, and I'll answer whatever question. I'll tell you how I'm doing shit, because I know you're not going to replicate it, even if I give you a cut of one of my plants. Yeah. You know, you're going to do something different. Your energy's different. So, yeah, I'm all open to about educating for sure.
Yeah. Dope. And, you know, like, what's good of having something great and all this information you can't share, you don't share? You know, why go to the grave? Like harboring the same.
Yeah.
That's how arts are lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing stuff like that. So yeah, I get the competitive part, but like you said, not everybody's going to do it like that. You know, not everybody's going to, you know, mix it the same way. Not everybody's going to have the same touch. You know.
Totally.
So it's just kind of like when you have grandma's cooking. You know, like someone else's grandma probably doesn't cook the same way your grandma does.
Yeah, totally, man. You go to your grandma's house for some pozole. You go to the neighbor's house, it's going to be totally different, dude. But it's still going to taste bomb. It's probably going to taste bomb if they're doing it right. You know what I mean? If their ingredients are right, it's probably going to taste right.
Yeah, it's going to taste good. It's like, it's not like my grandma's, but this is still fire.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure. And that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of the diversity of the cannabis industry, is that you've got people who bring things to the table that are at different levels, different tiers. You know, not everybody makes the same amount of money, so not everybody can afford that like top shelf weed, but they get that kind of like, you know, mid shelf or even like the shake stuff, man. Like if you're providing good medicine, that still is going to provide what they need at the end of the day. So yeah, for sure.
Consumer's choice, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Them and they make the right one.
1,000%.
Yeah. So, do you think that regenerative and living soil is going to be kind of more used in the industry more and more? Because I am seeing it indoors a lot more these days than I was years before.
I think so, but there's also, it's pretty competitive in terms of like the synthetic lines, because they do a good job. You know what I mean? Like the companies like Athena, like I know a lot of growers, even outdoor growers, that use their kits, and that looks like they have great results. I think it really just it depends on the grower at that point in time, how they want to approach growing. Is it like a fast result? Is it something that they want to take time to learn at the end of the day? But I don't know. I think right now it's kind of halfway, but you're right. There is like this momentum. I see more and more people talk about living soil. I don't know if it's a trend or if it's something that people are actually doing because they just want to provide a cleaner medicine at the end of the day.
And the cool thing about it, if it is a trend, is usually with trends comes more technology. So we see more technology come from the living soil stuff, which I'm excited about, because I always say this: innovation, you get innovation.
Totally.
Those two together, and that's kind of what we're seeing.
Totally.
People to kind of experiment with different ones. I use salts. I grow indoors. Outdoors,
totally.
A little different. But indoors, I use salts. But I'm not against anybody using living soil, doing it right, doing however they want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it works. It works.
That's how I feel. I have no judgment on how people want to do their thing. That's totally fine with me.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, I'm not going to be mad at you. You do what you do. Yeah. You have amazing plants. You got amazing plants. I probably can't.
For sure.
You're doing it. So, and also when I was, doing my little online research and stuff, I noticed you guys are a part of a co-op.
Yeah, so we actually, I tried to start one, and it still exists. It's just more or less an email list right now. But my intention behind that was to more or less bring people together with like-minded ideas to discuss what's going on in the industry. It's kind of like, how Instagram, you start following people because you like what they've got going on. You want to see what they're doing. So I just started thinking maybe, it might be a good idea for small farmers, small retailers, manufacturers, anybody who's not like on that huge corporate level to get together. So if there is a fluctuation in the industry, that they potentially can stick it out because they're bringing different services to the table. But more or less, it was also just to stay informed, because things are constantly changing. And if you've got people in different arms of the industry that can bring that information to you, it just makes the knowledge, it just makes me feel more comfortable knowing that I can just ask people questions about what's going on. And they're just going to be like, yeah, this is it. Like if retail, for example, you got to ask, like, what are the consumers wanting? Are they wanting like fruity profiles, gassy, skunky? Are they wanting high THC and that's it? Are they wanting more rosin? They want pre-rolls. There's lots of different avenues. So yeah, just trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, it is. And like I preach, terpenes all day, but at the end of the day, the consumers right now want THC. Really, that's all they know.
For sure.
It's not their fault. It's just what they know. Some consumers don't care. I just want high THC. It's like, whatever. You know what you want.
1,000%, man. For sure. And you can't blame them for that. And as a breeder, that's kind of like where I'm like, all right, cool. Like I know there's other breeders that are making those 28 to 32 or 34% flowers. I could bring that in, cross it to one of my older lineages, and just see if we can get that nostalgic taste and flavor profile, but with the high THC percentage. Because then you're like, bam, bam, both worlds. I'm getting like how I like to grow things, but also the consumer, what they want. So it's like, yeah, and that can change year to year, really. So yeah, it's I like the challenge. It's something that has kept me interested in cannabis for so long, because you meet so many unique people. There are a lot of like negative stories in the industry, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of positive ones too. And it's just kind of like with everything, there's a balance.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
It's like everything, like living soil.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%.
So, do you have any plans yourself to have like a retail location spot anywhere?
Probably not in the near future, just being that it's just me. If I were to partner with somebody, that could potentially be an option. You know, if somebody wanted to open a retail and I could just provide them with exclusive flower or rosin or seeds or clones or whatever the demand was to be. But right now, my operation, I don't even think I could be able to provide for a single retail. And so, yeah, right now I'm just doing the micro. I've got the 200 plant count. Just really trying to focus on the uniqueness of my strains that I've been breeding out and just kind of seeing how that flows in the industry. It's, I'm trying to remember what your question was.
No worries. We're talking about the THC thing. We kind of got off on something else in the conversation anyway. It was about your retail, doing retail.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, not so much retail, but just more focused on production.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I figured I'd ask. So with that being said, you know, is your product located anywhere right now?
Not at the moment, but it will be this fall. I've just started doing harvest now, so I'll start getting everything into manufacturing for pre-rolls. I'm actually going to be working on doing some temple ball hash. Okay. I know that hash is not like a huge thing right now, but it's one of those kind of like old school methods of smoking. It's a really cultural, ancient way of consuming cannabis. Yeah. And to me, that's really like the point in between where you have the plant and rosin, where the rosin is being processed by heat and the hash has just been processed by ice water. Yeah. In that sense. So it's kind of like one step less processed, if you will. Not that rosin isn't freaking incredible, because it is. But hash. Yeah, totally. And I feel like hash could maybe be that kind of middle in between, because you still get flavor profile, you still get really high effects from it. And maybe doing like some actual hash worm infused pre-rolls. And like maybe doing the temple ball. So doing stuff like that. And then at the end of the year, I plan on doing some specialized 8 farmer cut jars. Okay. So yeah, those will be like specific phenos that I've hunted and picked out. And so yeah, those should be like the top tier, if you will, of what my farm is producing at the moment.
Nice. Well, I can't wait to see where, you know, your flower.
Yeah.
Hopefully you bring it down south.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I will definitely be making my way down there for sure.
Yeah. If you ever need someone to go with you want to check out some spots, I can give you some suggestions.
Yeah, man. Let's definitely make it a thing. I'd love to come down there, maybe hit up some food spots, go to dispensaries. Yeah. For sure. Just talk to some folks.
Sure, I'll be around.
For sure, man. For sure. I'll hit you up later this year for sure.
Heck yeah, man. So, with all that being said, too, I wanted to ask you this earlier, since you do love, you know, growing. What's your favorite cultivar you're growing right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a 3 that I'm really enjoying, and one is Wookie Tangy. That one is Wookie Cookies crossed with Tangy OG. There's a couple phenos in there. One of them smells like rancid fruit, and then the other one has more of like a sweet tone to it, but it also kind of has like an iron, rotten, like a rotten meat smell going on. So it could be very like off-putting to some people because it's so potent in smell. Yeah. But that's just kind of what I go for. But then also there's another one I've been working on. It's called Caffeine, and that is a cross between Coffee F5 and Sour Biofog. Sour Biofog is sour Afghan diesel crossed with Fruit of the Gods. And so that one has kind of almost a hint of everything. It's got some gas, some fruit, a little bit of earth, and more pinene than any like limonene. So it's got more of like that pine scent to it.
More like pine.
And then yeah, for sure, but not as acidic, because that kind of sweet takes over before you get to that acid thing going on. Yeah, it's super complex for sure.
Yeah. And I'm excited to try some of these terps. I mean, you're telling me my mouth.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, for sure. And I've the other one that I've been working on is Cowboy Coffee. Okay. And that one is a cross between Coffee F5 and Lemon Hammer, which is 9-pound hammer crossed with lemon tree.
Oh, so yeah, hammer, nice draw.
Yeah, for sure. So that one hits for sure. That's the one that I'm going to potentially be using for my washer for my rosin. When I did the jar test, it looked pretty good. And I had Couch Lock come out and do a little field test on the plants just to see if they were more greasy or if they had kind of like that sand granular feel to it. Because what I'm learning with like manufacturers for rosin, that there's certain textures of the trichomes that they look for, but also that there are some greasy ones that wash well. So like Goldfish was talking to me about I think it was their strawberry guava that was greasy. Yeah, that was greasy, but they said it washed at like 5%.
Yeah,
so like
crazy. Yeah, bad or good.
Yeah, totally. So I think it's always worth maybe just doing the jar test to see, if it's worth it. And then if you've got enough material, finding someone to run it for you, even if it's just small batch. Because if it turns out to be badass, like I did one with Couch Lock called Sour Berry Cake. And that was a cross between 10 different strains that they just mixed together. And the profile was just off the charts. It wasn't one thing or another. It was just kind of all over the place. But yeah, doing stuff like that too with like all your R&D plants, like if they're good, if you got a good enough washers in there, you can go ahead and just kind of play around and see, just be creative with it, have fun. Yeah. That's kind of the goal too, man, is just to have fun. It's a business, but you got to have fun too.
Yeah, for sure. I've been working with the hash rosin company for the past, year and a half or so. So yeah, everything you tell me, we go out to farms, we try to check them out. There's certain cultivars you want to use. It's growing, but then it's like another level of growing, because it's like growing for want is like essentially kind of it's like
for sure
growing for that. Specific,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to come out and check it out and just kind of help me expand my knowledge. But also I like people to see, like, be hands-on on the farm to see where their medicine's coming from.
Yeah, sure. Well, whenever we're in the area, we'll hit you up and we'll stop by. We'll go to Goldfish and hang out for, they'll feed us and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Appreciate it so much. They always feed us and stuff. So yeah, we'll come hang out with you for afternoon or whatever and check it out for sure.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
Heck yeah, But, I don't want to take up all the time for the show. Unfortunately, we have to move on with the conversation and everything.
No worries.
Before we do, where can people find you online and in real life?
Totally. So online, you can find me at sacredsoulfarm.com. A good contact for me is sacredsoulfarm@gmail.com. And then I also have an Instagram handle, which is sacred_soul_farm. And those are probably like the 3 best ways to get a hold of me. And yeah, pretty quick to respond. So, because it's just me, I always got to be checking shit.
Yeah. Now I know why you respond so quickly when I do talk to you. I'm like, hey.
Yeah, totally. For sure.
Makes sense. So one-man band here. So yeah, that's a lot of work, especially just 200 plants is a lot of work. So, it's good job.
For sure.
You and,
thanks, man.
To try your product and everything, man.
Thank you.
I'm excited to try it. So
I'll keep you guys posted.
Before we move on to the next topic, I gotta thank my sponsors real quick. I want to thank Cinder Cannabis Company out here in Las Cruces. Find them here. Monster House. Usually we're over there, but my guest is remote today, so I'm not in the Edgar Allan Poe corner. If you ever want to be on the show again, let me know. Maybe we'll be over at that location. It's the only consumption lounge here in Cruces. Really cool little area. Really like a dive bar kind of feel. I really like that. So normally we're over there, but thank you guys so much for your sponsorship too, and as well as Turquoise Bloom here in Las Cruces. Thank you guys as much. You can find them here on Wyatt Drive. Thank you all of you with your contributions. You guys are helping making this show even better. So thank you. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the next conversation, and that conversation is going to be about the House lawmakers. They voted to block cannabis rescheduling, and there's some other stuff too there, and we'll get into that. But I just wanted to update you guys real quick on what happened, and I will also update you guys on the rescheduling stuff too on the next topic. So the House Appropriations Committee, they approved legislation, or really they added an amendment during a committee to block efforts to reschedule cannabis. And so essentially what they did is they're pulling funding from that. Essentially what we did, they're going off our playbook, which I can't be too mad, because we did the same thing when it came to the Robacher, amendment and stuff like that, because we pretty much told them, the DOJ, you can't use federal funds to go after state legal cannabis. We didn't do that to DHS, that's why we're having issues, but we did it to DOJ. And so that's where that thing comes in. So essentially they're going off our playbook saying, well, now we're going to say the DEA can't use any funds to reschedule cannabis whatsoever. And it's a little weird because it's a really big backwards thing. And unfortunately, it came from a Republican-led panel, and they're the ones who approved it. So it was a majority Republican, and the Northwest Democrats or independents were in minority. And so to me, that kind of it not scares me, but at the same time, makes me wonder, where are we going to go now? Because we have an election coming up, and with the cannabis industry, sometimes people vote against their own livelihood, essentially, because of political parties and affiliations and stuff like that, which is unfortunate. And that's where sometimes this comes from, because you got representatives who they believe on one thing, but when their business needs another thing, it doesn't work. They're not hand in hand. And so that's kind of what we're seeing with this right here. We have a bunch of representatives who don't understand cannabis, and their constituents aren't educating them, because it's our job to educate our representatives. If we don't educate them and they don't understand, they make bad laws. So this isn't just a fallback on the representatives, it's the people from their constituents. They're not really contacting them or letting them know that, hey, this and this and this, if this happens, this is going to be the issue. So now we're seeing this added in. All the same time, we have the DEA doing their 60-day public comment thing. This is going on. But the thing I want to mention about this is isn't a DOJ funding bill. So at any point this can change. It was just a committee. This could reach the Senate floor and then it gets removed, which I think it probably will. To be honest, what it looks like is on the Senate floor, they'll probably get this taken out. Because to me, it's kind of silly. It's a waste of time. And it's a waste of efforts. Because there's another part of this where they're allowing federal agents to enforce a 1,000-foot threshold when it comes to distributing cannabis. So you can't be near an elementary, 1,000 feet from an elementary, vocational school, college, public housing, or playground. And as you guys know, here in Las Cruces, that narrows it down a lot. Like that kind of breaks, there's a lot of places that would have to shut down, essentially, or that would get raided. And that was another thing that came from this too. And unfortunately, I don't know how well that one's going to get removed, because that one's a little crazy too. And to be honest, all of this is kind of going backwards, in my opinion. And I wanted to get all the information out first before I asked your opinion on it too, and what you thought. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, it's really interesting. As I was saying earlier, like there's so many factors that roll into it. I think, if you want my personal opinion on it, I think a federally thing would be all right, because still maybe the states would still have, I mean, depending on how the federal was written, if there were certain, let's just say, guidelines you had to adhere to that weren't necessarily like friendly for states based off of their current setup of the system. One thing that I've thought about with the rescheduling is, how can they do that with the lack of information that they have, because it's been so like on a certain schedule for so long, right? Like down there with heroin and whatever class that it was with. It's interesting. I think maybe what they're doing is allowing states to legalize, because by doing that, it's building a format for a bigger machine, if you will. So like if the federal government's kind of taking notes on all the legal states, which I think there's 32 or something like that at this point, whether it's medical or rec.
32 medical, and we're almost at 25 for rec.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like that's more than that's basically half, right? So like that's huge in terms of how to base a bigger machine, if you want to call it that, for the legalization as a whole. I think the international level is a whole nother conversation to the legalization of federal, because then you've got like, can you ship stuff from New Mexico to, Spain, or, you know what I mean? Like clones or whatever it may be. Like there are benefits to it, but I don't know enough information. It's still not enough that I know about to feel comfortable one way or the other. I'm just kind of in the neutral, just kind of hoping to get information, but also hoping to give information where I can to help build that. Yeah, 1,000%, man, for sure. Woo woo.
Yeah, that's where I come in. I help you with guys with all that information and try to break this down Barney style and understand. That's kind of one of the things I do. Both of my parents were teachers, so I do take some tips from them sometimes on how to educate, because I don't know everything on education. They went to school for it, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So, but yeah, I kind of feel that these amendments that were put in the committee, I do feel that they're sending us backwards. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I do feel that some of these will be removed before, and that happens all the time. That happens here in New Mexico during state legislature stuff. During a committee, something will be added, and then we have to fight and get it removed on the Senate floor, like the drive-through thing this last legislative session. That's exactly what we had to do. You know, it got added in the committee, terrible amendment, went to the floor, got it removed on the floor, which was great. You know, it's great that we can do that. You like get a second chance essentially. So we'll probably most likely see another amendment added in the next committee, or if it's at the floor. I don't know where it's at this point, you know, in our government. But there was a California representative, Barbara Lee. She did introduce an amendment to remove it in that committee, but it failed 20 to 30, so it lost by 10 votes. So that's telling you how kind of close it is. But if the party leads it, and right now we're so divided in our Congress that, you know, you can kind of see how a bill is going to pass just by who introduced it, or if it's bipartisan or not. You can usually predict it that way. It's kind of sad, you know, to be honest, that's how I can predict how a certain bill is going to go. You know what I mean?
What do you think influences like those vote swings in some sense? Is it more like a personal like knowledge at that point, like based off of what you've heard from other people that kind of swing your vote, if you will?
Yeah. There's a lot of politics that go into it. I think there's several layers. You know, there's not like one real answer to it. You know, some politicians, you know, they'll think about it. I need votes from this certain demographic, so I need to attack cannabis because my majority demographic hates cannabis. So I'm going to attack cannabis even if I don't care. And so they go and they attack cannabis, and they just repeat what other, you know, people in the same area say, and then they attack it the same way. Because here we're having a lot of representatives talk about, well, we just want a balance of law, we don't want the confusion, we just want everyone to follow the federal law, and blah blah blah, this and that. And that's their excuse. So this year's excuse is, you know, we want the law to be followed. But at the same time, states have created their own laws, and so now we have this thing up here still. And it's like, well, you are addressing the fact that we have over 30-something states with a medical cannabis program, and almost half of the nation with rec adult use. There's no way those 25 states that are benefiting are going to say, yeah, we're going to give up our adult use just so we can, you know, follow federal law. Yeah, please, yeah. No, there's no way, in my opinion, the states are going to allow that. Like, they're just going to keep moving on, just kind of like how Schedule 3, because right now, and I was wrong about this, guys, we actually have two industries right now. We have the 280 industry, and we have the hemp industry. But with Schedule 3 industry, we'll end up with 3 industries, because once it goes Schedule 3, all the other activities will be those activities. So Schedule 1 activity will still be Schedule 1 activity, which is adult use. Medical cannabis, however, will be Schedule 3. And then, of course, hemp will be the hemp bill, you know, federal legal thing. So, you know, that's I see where the confusion and what they're talking about, but the solution isn't the right solution, because we already have all these states that are making billions of dollars for the federal government. We're all paying federal taxes still.
Right.
You know? Yeah, we don't get deductions, you know, so the federal government is making a lot of money off of us. And to be honest, I can see some politicians also saying, well, we are getting this amount of money from the 280E. We don't want that money to go away. We're going to fight legalization as much as we can, so that way we can keep raking in all this money. You know, we don't care that we just want the money. So you have some politicians that are probably thinking that too. So to me, it's a broad spectrum. It's all over the place. And so when you get all those people together, even if they're from different parties, they will swing a vote, and it can go the other way. And
for
so
sure.
That's kind of what we see in the cannabis world. And to be honest, it's like I said, we aren't educating our representatives enough. And once we educate our representatives more, I think they can make better policy changes when it comes to legislation. But it's going to be time. You know?
Yeah, for sure. It's not an instant overnight thing, like you said, especially when it comes to those sessions where, you know, things might get changed and within a 12-hour period or something.
Yeah, you know, and it happens like that. You know, especially here in New Mexico, you know, our legislature is a little weird. It's different than most other states. We don't pay our representatives here. We have a 30-day and a 60-day session that are, you know, alternating. Upcoming session is going to be a 60-day session. And actually, we have a special session coming up this summer, I think in the next couple of weeks. I don't believe there's going to be any cannabis on that agenda. I think that's just going to be public safety, which is essentially the gun stuff. Because with a special session, the governor can actually make the agenda of what can be on it. During a regular session, she can't really tell them what's on it. She can give them like a wish list, like, hey, this is really what I'd like to see. But she can't say, this is the only thing that's going to be in the legislature. But during a special session, she can't.
Nice.
So we're going to see some other stuff. And and maybe we'll see some cannabis stuff snuck in there too. I have no clue. So we'll see. New Mexico's making a lot of money, and I don't see us turning backwards on it because I mean we made $1 billion in under 2 years. I mean that's impressive. That's impressive.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for 2 million people.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. 2.2 million people and a bunch of Texans.
Yeah, 1,000% for sure. Yeah. But there's a lot of smokers in New Mexico for sure, man. That's what I was saying earlier about the different levels. It's just nice to have that.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice that we have this community already. And I remember even growing up, New Mexico had a niche cannabis little community. That was really small. And back in the days, of course, we had to all be freaking quiet, walk 5 miles to smoke a joint in the forest, kind of thing. So it's kind of been there, but now it's really flourishing, and I love it. We're all really able to get out there and get the industry going. So, but that's really all I had for the update for this. It was just really shocking to see that they're attacking it from that side, but also touche because we played the same playbook. So it just essentially comes from the cannabis playbook is what they're doing. Maybe they'll counter it. I know our representative Gabe Vasquez from here in New Mexico, he did introduce an amendment during a committee to block Department of Homeland Security from using funds in the same manner when it comes to state legal cannabis, which would apply to every state, not just New Mexico. But I don't think that amendment made it into the spending bill. So unfortunately, I don't think it made it. I will look that up because I was kind of curious about it when I was writing this guide. And I was like, you know what? I need to look that up. So I'll look it up later and I'll let you guys know, maybe next week or maybe on the story.
It's wild to me that they would deny it, like you said, because in a sense the state's losing money, are they not?
No, the state. So we've lost, I think it was $500,000 in taxes so far.
That's what I'm saying. So what are they protecting themselves from?
No, sorry, $100,000 in taxes. We've lost $500,000 in products. So yeah, $100,000 in taxes. That's a lot.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, for sure. I see what you're saying. It's kind of ass backwards.
yeah, it is. It's ass backwards. It's like what's going on here? We're making you guys money. I'm sorry, we're not a defense company making bombs, but
yeah,
we're making bomb weed.
Well, hey, you can come to Socorro. They make bombs over at the school over there.
Maybe you can show us how to make bombs.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of engineers over there,
Yeah, totally.
So, but that's all I had for that, guys. I really wanted to update you on it, keep you in the know what's going on with this because this is actually really important. If you want, always, contact your representatives, state and federal, whenever it comes to something like this. Let them know what you want. They're working for you, so tell your representative what you want. And if they don't want what you want, vote for someone else next time. That's the way our system works. So, and good luck this November on voting. Please don't vote against your best interest. It's the best advice I can give the industry. Put your feelings aside and think about your pocketbook and your well-being and your family. And vote with your best interest. That's the best advice I can give you. So, with that being said, we're going to move over and we're going to talk to something similar, but kind of on a different topic, the rescheduling update. I know I talked about this, a couple of times throughout the show about rescheduling, but this is the update. As you guys know, right now, we're in a 60-day period of public comment where we can make a public comment to the DEA, or you can request a public comment time from the DEA, which I think has happened, but it's up to the DEA if they want to do that or not. And I'll explain that here in a little bit. You have 1 week left. Actually, when this airs, I think you're going to have 4 days left. So on July 22nd is when the public comment stops. So if you have a major public comment, please make it. Over 30,000 people have made comments, which is amazing, to be honest. That's a small city. That's a small city worth. That's Alamogordo size worth of a city making public comments, and that's great. Let's get to 50,000. Let's try to get to 50,000 in 4 days. I know that's a high number, but I'd really like to see that. That's great that so many of us had taken the time to do that too. I did my public comment, I think, last week. I really took time to think and really what I wanted to say and how to articulate it. In the end, I'm not sure if I really did do that, but we'll see. We'll see what the DEA does. It's really up to them. And I really wanted to tell you guys what happens after this 60-day period that's going to be ending. So by the time I have another show, this period would have ended, and we're going to be going on to another period. So what's going to happen now is the CSA requires that the changes to a drug scheduling be made through a formal rulemaking on the record opportunity for a hearing. So we already heard about that and that whole process. But the only thing about it is they're not required to give us that hearing. So it's up to them. And then they also have to, I think, appoint a presiding judge for that hearing as well. And so it's not like a regular like Senate hearing. It's a different kind of hearing because it's DEA and you're dealing with some other stuff. So they have their own process. And, I won't go too deep into it. Let's keep it boring style. But yeah, the next step would be after that, they would say, okay, are we going to do a public, comment, yes or no? They do it or they don't. Then they're going to have to go through 30,000 public comments, and that's going to take a while. So then we're going to go through that. And after that's done, after all the public comments are done and all that stuff. Oh, and actually, before I move on to the next thing, guys, when you do your public comments, please, and I know these places do it out of the kindness of their heart, those copy and paste things from normal. Please don't put those in the thing, because a lot of the times representatives delete those once they realize it's copy and paste. If you're going to copy and paste, at least put a sentence or a paragraph that's your own wording so they at least read it. If not, it gets tossed out and nothing gets done. Yeah, a little bit of advice that I got from a senator this last year. So I try to share it with everyone else because that's actually really good advice, because he told me he tosses that stuff right out.
Yeah, totally.
So, but yeah, after the comments and all that, it's going to take DEA to send it off to a OMB review. So there's going to be another agency, they're going to review it, and then it's going to come to a final rule before it's published to the Federal Registry, because it requires I forgot what that review, and they have to submit it to Congress. So after this is all said and done, after the OMB is done, it goes to the OIRA, then it goes to Congress, and then there's another 60-day review period that is happening, and we have to wait another 60 days. So to let you guys know, we're a long ways away from this being done. It's probably, I'm thinking, 2 years from the start to finish. So we're about another year and a half out from this being completed. So we'll see what happens, because there's a lot of steps and a lot of time waiting for public comment and stuff like that, which is great. That's what you want. You always want to, give your public comment when they give you the chance, because, you're dealing with government. But this is the reason why it takes so long, is because your bureaucratic process, and they're giving us the opportunity to voice our opinions too. So
yeah,
totally. So I just wanted to update you all on all of that. Do you have anything to kind of share that you heard on that or whatever? I know I kind of went down with it. I just wanted kind of to give everybody an overview of it.
Yeah, no. Sounds good. I think I haven't been able to make the sessions because they're up in Santa Fe, aren't they?
No, this is federal. So this is down in DC.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
DEA. Yeah, this is DEA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So So the DEA is in the federal review for the rescheduling for cannabis from one to
Gotcha.
And this
okay.
is the update for the process for it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Where do you make the comments? Is there a website?
I'm going to be leaving that. Thank you for asking that, by the way. I'm going to be leaving that link in my description. So all of you watching, if you want to make your public comment after watching the show, that link will be down in the description, and you guys can just click, make your public comment. I think you can mail it in too. I'm pretty sure you can. With the government, you can call, email, write, show up in person kind of situation. So I'm pretty sure you can mail it in. It's a lot faster if you want to write it. However, one thing that I did notice is there's a lot of people that would type it, because you are limited on how many words you can put in there. So if you want, put it in a Word document or in a docs doc and upload it to that, and you can have it pretty much as long as you want. And of course, they have to read it. So just make sure you're not just copying and pasting a bunch of things that people already did too. So thank you for bringing that up, because I will leave the link for that.
Word.
Yeah, 100%. Well, do you have anything else?
Regarding that, I don't believe so.
Yeah. That's all I have too on it, for that conversation as well. I just wanted to update everybody and let them know and keep everybody in the know on this, because this is important, this affects all of us. This is federal.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Like it comes down to like the home grow type thing. So yeah, it can make a huge difference on everybody. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. That's why, I always fought for home grow. I tell people, having legalization without home grows is just like having it illegal with perks. With perks. It's prohibition with perks is what it is. And I say that all the time, and it's true, because if you don't have the ability to grow the plant too, it's what's the point? Why make that?
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like you're controlling at that point, like where they get their medicine.
Yeah, I can who's grow in my garage. I can grow.
Yeah, totally.
It's all pretty,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So is this. So, yeah. But anyway, that's all I have for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. It was great to have you on, Josh. I look forward to trying your flower and your products. Like I said, look out for it this fall, everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
New farms. Like I said, our micro cannabis producers in New Mexico are just killing it, and I hope you continue to kill it.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
curious to see where this living soil stuff goes, in the future with the industry as well. And I look forward to working with you. Maybe we'll stop by in Socorro and see what's up one day.
Yeah, please do, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Heck yeah, man. And one more time, I want to thank my sponsors, Cinder Cannabis Company here in Cruces, Monster House, check out the Consumption Lounge, and Turquoise Bloom. Thank you all so much for your contributions. Make sure you guys go check them out here in Las Cruces, or if you're from out of town, come in and check them out. All right, guys, I'm going to see you next week. Thank you again to Josh, and Josh, a.k.a. Sacred Soul Farm. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next week.
Later.